What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 2021 Virtual March Madness Tournament. Here's a quick look at our bracket before hopping into the Final Four today. The virtual tournament has predicted 3 of 4 real-life Final Four participants correctly, adding Alabama into the mix. There's been some buzzer beaters, upsets, comeback victories that we've all bear witness to, but today it all culminates in our Final Four. So let's go down to Indianapolis to watch the starting lineups of Gonzaga versus Alabama, and I hope you're excited for today's video. Now introducing the 30-win 7-loss Alabama Crimson Tide, starting at the point guard, 6'1" sophomore from Hackensack, New Jersey, number 13, Davion Mitchell. Starting at the power forward, a 6'8" senior from Greensboro, Alabama, number 1, Herbert Jones. Starting at the wing, a 6'5" senior from Huntsville, Alabama, number 23, John Petty. Starting at the center position, a 6'10" senior from Columbia, South Carolina, number 2, Jordan Bruner. And at the 2 guard, a 6'3" sophomore from Hesperia, California, number 5, Jaden Shackelford. And the Alabama Crimson Tide are coached by Nate Oates. The 2 seed from the West region, the Alabama Crimson Tide will try to play spoiler today to the number 1 overall seed of the March Madness tournament this season, the undefeated Gonzaga Bulldogs. Starting at the power forward, a 6'8" sophomore from Spokane, Washington, number 22, Anton Watson. Starting at the center position, a 6'10" sophomore from Richardson, Texas, number 2, Drew Timme. Starting at the wing, standing at 6'5", a junior from Paris, France, number 11, Joel Ayayi. Running the show at the point guard tonight is 6'4" freshman from West St. Paul, Minnesota, number 1, Jalen Suggs. And at the small forward position, a 6'7" senior from Edmonds, Washington, number 24, Corey Kispert. The Gonzaga Bulldogs are coached by Mark Few. Oh man, Indianapolis is electric tonight. We are ready to get things underway here in one of the better basketball states across the entire country, and this place is rocking. No such thing as any virus here in video game land. We're ready to tip things off and hopefully have a great night. We got Alabama and Gonzaga later on, Baylor and Houston. We're ready to get things underway. Drew Timme versus Jordan Bruner for the tip-off in the Final Four is underway here in the virtual March Madness tournament. Javion Quinterly and his Alabama teammates will set up shop, and we'll begin quickly with Quinterly going right to the cup. The Alabama transfer Javion Quinterly averaging 13 and 3 assists here in his sophomore campaign, and they will also force a stop on Gonzaga on the first offensive possession for the Bulldogs. This is an inbound after a Joel Ayayi reach and foul, which will become important later on. Meanwhile, Shackelford will step back and the southpaw will get on the board. Jaden Shackelford, the leading point per game getter for the Alabama Crimson Tide at 14 a night. The 6'3" sophomore is on the board. Now under 7.5 to play, we're approaching 2 minutes into the ball game, still no points from Gonzaga. Meanwhile, Joel Ayayi picks up some early foul trouble, too aggressive trying to fight through that screen, and now we're going to see the Florida transfer, Andrew Nebhard, check in for some very important minutes here as Gonzaga still trying to get their legs underneath them. Meanwhile, Alabama having no problems. Quinterly with 3-pointer number 2, and we're not even 2 minutes into this game. Alabama, what a start for the Tide. They can play only 2 losses against their SEC opponents this season. Alabama 16-2 within the conference. And now we see Corey Kispert go to work, a little baby jumper. He missed his first 2 shots from the field. Number 3 is a success though, so Gonzaga on the board. There were definitely some questions whether or not Alabama was going to be battle tested for this ball game. I mean, they've had pretty good luck with their draw. They had some trouble against Iona, surprisingly, in the first round, and they also got to face UNC Greensboro, the 13th seed in the Elite Eight, the biggest Cinderella of the virtual tournament, but they're having no problems so far today. Another 3-pointer for the Tide. 2 seconds left to go on this possession. Drew Timme fires one up. He has to rush that one as Gonzaga continues to look out of sorts on offense. A far cry from the nation's #1 ranked offense in real life. Meanwhile, we see Quinterly driving the lane again, not a replay, but a similar looking layup to what he started off the game with, and Quinterly is outscoring the Zags by himself, 13-6. Quinterly's got 7 and the lead is also 7. Approaching 3 minutes left to play, we see Jalen Suggs, who hasn't attempted a shot yet. Throughout the first 6 minutes, he'll dish it to Andrew Nebhard, and the Gonzaga Bulldogs really needed that one. Despite their slow start, they still are only down by 4. And at this point, you just want to see Alabama really take advantage of Gonzaga looking a little off kilter to start the game. You know, it's always a question of not if Gonzaga will get their offense going, but when. So they have to take advantage, and they continue to. Shackelford with the pop screen. Good pass by Jordan Bruner, and Alabama has doubled the Zags' output so far. I don't think anybody expected this performance as they force yet another stop. Alabama, one of the better defensive clubs in the SEC, and now a little two-man game between Shackelford and Bruner. Wow. Jaden's got more points than the minutes we've played so far. He's got 11 and 9. A minute to go here in the first quarter. Gonzaga not even double figures yet. Nebhard will receive a screen from Drew Timme as there's a nice play. Nebhard had that 3 earlier to get the Zags going a little bit. Maybe this and one will also help. Nebhard, a 6'3 junior from Aurora, Canada, 9 points and 4.5 assists off the bench for the Zags. He'd probably start on a majority of teams around college basketball, and then Drew Timme goes to work on the very next possession. As Timme's actually surprisingly the leader in points per game for the Zags this year, 19 and 7 for the 6'10 sophomore. Meanwhile, Shackelford, wow, what has gotten into him? They spread it out there on the last possession and let Shackelford go to work at the top of the key. Nebhard will try to answer off the mark as John Petty pulls it in to reach the end of the first quarter. Alabama, what's a performance. Roll Tide so far here through the first 9 minutes of this one. We'll pick things up here in the second quarter. Joel Ayayi, nice floater over Bruner. The 6'5 junior from Paris averages 12 and 7, a very good rebounder for the 2 position. As Ayayi, with his first shot attempt, he missed most of the first because of those 2 early fouls. As Gonzaga pulls within 7, Shackelford, Baby J, no good, but Jordan Bruner is now there to clean it up. And that's exactly what you don't want to see from Gonzaga. Alabama's already killing them from outside. You can't let them have easy looks on the interior as well. Here comes Corey Kispert off balance. There's a nice shot from him. He struggled out of the gate. Only 1 for 5 for Kispert so far. Pretty cold there for the Zags' second leading scorer. Meanwhile, Quinterly will drive to the left for a 3rd time in this ball game. This time he draws a bump, and Ayayi is tacked for his 3rd foul. And obviously that's a big miss for Gonzaga. They're already having trouble closing out the perimeter game for the Tide, and not having Ayayi, one of the better perimeter defenders here in the entire bracket, is going to hurt. Nice backdoor feed though, Suggs to Kispert, as Suggs has 4 first half assists despite not getting on the board yet. Now in this possession, Quinterly's going to have to force one up in the face of Aaron Cook, who checks in for Ayayi. No good that time, and Cook's also leaking out. He'll make a little move to his right, draw a bump, and put it through. Javon Quinterly for foul number 2, and Aaron Cook, a very important bench piece for Gonzaga today. The 6'1 senior from St. Louis averages 4.5 points, 1.5 assists, and with this free throw he can actually eclipse his point per game tally on the season, and he will. He hit a pull-up J earlier, so a couple of very important bench minutes for Cook so far. 28-25, Gonzaga slowly clawing their way back into this one. Kispert open off a screen. He will make a nice move and glide his way to the paint. Kispert, a smart play there. He's been showing from the perimeter, so he'll put his head down and attack nicely. Kispert starting to heat up a little bit. Meanwhile, Gonzaga on the ropes a little bit. You're seeing why this #1 ranked attack for Gonzaga on the offensive end is just so dangerous. You can never count them out. So Gonzaga with another stop on defense. Julian Strother will actually check in now. A little handoff to Aaron Cook, and you got to check out this pass right here. That was deadly. A beautiful 2-man game between Aaron Cook and Omar Bialo. Wow, look at this pass. Maybe the nicest assist we've seen all tournament long, and Aaron Cook's got it going so far. He's been a hero so far for the Bulldogs, keeping him in it. He's got 6 bench points and a very nice assist to boot. And with that dunk, Gonzaga takes their first lead of the ball game. Took them a while as John Petty will drive. He's always so deadly with the ball in his hands around the basket. Knocks down the pull-up J. And that shot will mark the end of the first half rather, with the Bama Crimson tied up by 1. And you can't take away the Bama first half performance, but at the same time, Gonzaga is showing why their #1 ranked offense is such a luxury. They aren't playing particularly well, but were able to overcome an 11-point deficit in only a few minutes to be down a single point. Gonzaga is actually shooting better than the Tide, 45% to 44, but Alabama has been hot from 3, specifically Shackelford, 4 from 6 from behind the line, 14 points for the game for the senior. Javon Quinterly had a 3 and 4 attempts as well. He's second behind Jaden points with 10. John Petty has 4, and Jordan Bruner leads all rebounders with 8 for the Tide. Meanwhile, the Zags haven't gotten their looks from 3 they normally do. The Tide have gotten a lot of perimeter length, but the more they go inside, the more success they find. Kispert eventually found himself at the end of the half. He leads the Bulldogs with 8 as he steps to the line here, 4 for 11 shooting. Nebhard has 6. For the Zags, Joel Ayayi has 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and is still in foul trouble. He's got 4 already. And Suggs has a whopping 5 assists, but not even has attempted a shot yet. And of course, Aaron Cook's been a game changer, 7 points and 7 bench minutes. But here we go. How about Quinterly for his second 3 of the game? Gonzaga keeps rolling from beyond the arc. 37-34, the Tide lead, as we see Petty now trying to go one-on-one against Anton Watson. A lot of height he gives up there, so he'll swing it around. Now Quinterly back out to Petty, who finds some real estate. There's the first 3 from John Petty, who's taken a bit of a back seat tonight. Nonetheless, Alabama continues to roll from the perimeter. 40-34, Alabama leads. And take a look at this backdoor feed. Wow, what a play. There goes Corey Kispert to Drew Timme, and Timme was actually the 47th best high school prospect in his 2019 class. The sophomore has 6 points now. 40-36, stop forced by Gonzaga. You gotta like the improvement they're showing over time, as Kispert will give it to Timme at the high post. More two-man game between these two players. Gotta love the showing you're seeing from Kispert in a response effort. He's really rebounded well from his 1-for-5 start. 42-40 now. Alabama still clinging to that lead, but here come the Zags. 4:45 left to go here in the third. Kispert pull. There's a tie game. Nice job there with the screen from Timme. Kispert's up to 13 in the ball game. So it looks like Gonzaga found their #1 source of offense here in the second half. Some two-man games between Timme and Kispert's working well for them. Let's see what Alabama has in store. They're facing a little bit of adversity here, trying to continue to keep Gonzaga off their backs, as Quinterly will pull in the face of Jalen Suggs. Suggs, man, he's getting upstaged tonight. The projected NBA lottery pick has not had a fun time tonight on defense, and it would continue here. Shackelford through the lane over Anton Watson, and the Tide are right back to it, up by 7. 7 unanswered while I'm at it. Suggs at the top of the key now. Gonzaga in desperate need of a basket. Suggs will pull. There's actually his first shot attempt of the night and his first make. Suggs with 3 and 6 assists. Meanwhile, the Zags desperately need some stops, specifically on the perimeter. Alabama has been starting this third quarter much like they did the game, continuing to destroy the Zags perimeter D. Another 3-pointer there. The lead is back up to 7, like nothing. Kispert now looking to feed the post into Anton Watson. They got the mismatch they wanted, but Watson, he smokes it. Josh Primo, the backup guard, he'll pull it down. He actually averages 8 on the year, but will make a nice pass to John Petty for 3-pointer number 2 of his third quarter. The Tide with a 15-5 run. They're enjoying themselves right now, and would tack on another Jaden Shackelford bucket to give themselves a 12-point lead with 9 minutes to go here in this game. The Tide are really enjoying themselves. Much in their favor was that third quarter, and much to the chagrin of the Gonzaga Bulldogs, as they are in a huge hole to begin the fourth quarter. And Gonzaga, they're looking for a stop here, but at the same token, Alabama continues to go to what they've done all night long. Lots of screens on the perimeter, lots of perimeter shots, and they've looked deadly. 11 of 19 shooting, and most of those have been three-point attempts. Very impressive from the Tide, but now John Petty, one of the best slashers here in the tournament, he gets one to go there. Alabama now up by 14, their biggest lead of the ball game, and we're under 7.5 to play here. Andrew Nebhard checks into Ayayi, wide open, but that one's off the back iron. Desperately needing that one to go. Meanwhile, going back door is Shackelford. What a pass from Quinterly. Man, those two guys, it's been like clockwork all night. Wow, what a find there. And absorbing the contact for another three-point play. The Gonzaga Bulldogs are are really sweating. Meanwhile, Alabama is riding high. Just like in real life, it doesn't look like there's going to be an undefeated victor here in the March Madness tournament, real life or virtual. Meanwhile, Aaron Cook continues to go to work. Nice pull-up J there from 9 feet out. He's been one of the few shining bright spots from this Gonzaga lineup. 64-52, not much time to play. The finish line's right around the corner with Gonzaga still looking for some answers here. Look at this backdoor play that's actually tipped and stolen by Joel Ayayi. Good anticipation there. Gonzaga in needs of some points very quickly here. And they'll work this one around to Kisper. Another handoff between him and Timmy. Maybe they should have done more of this in the second half. And Kisper will glide through the air and put one through. So Kisper, the leading scorer for the Zags with 15, but that looks like chump change compared to what Shackelford and Quinterly have done tonight. A 10-point lead for the Alabama Crimson Tide, looking for one more shot to bring them to the finish line. Quinterly's already walking back. A step back three on Suggs, who it's been a nightmare for him tonight. I'll just say that right now. 69-58 as Suggs will hit another shot here, as he finished the game with 7 to make the final score look not as bad. They were able to cut it to single digits. Nonetheless, though, Alabama will be our first team here in the virtual March Madness tournament, making their appearance in the virtual championship game to face the winner of Houston or Baylor. 69-60, this is something that I bet nobody expected. Gonzaga averages 86 points per game on the year, but the length of Alabama and their rebounding really set the tempo for the defensive side of the floor for the Tide. Meanwhile, the plethora of threes they hit at all the right times that they really needed to set themselves apart from the Zags. This was impressive, and you know, Baylor is the heavy favorite in the Houston game, but I feel like whoever comes out of that will be tested against Alabama if they did what they if they do what they did here tonight, for sure. They, honestly, this might be one of the better performances we've seen all tournament long. So we've completed the first game of the national semi-final round. Let's hop over to Houston and Baylor, where those two clubs are getting ready in their respective locker rooms. Obviously, these two teams faced off in real life in the Final Four, and the Cougars looking to respond and make it more competitive here in the virtual tournament. Who will score off with the Crimson Tide for the national championship? Let's find out. Let's introduce the last two teams remaining. Standing at 6'8", starting at center for the Houston Cougars, a senior from Tuskegee, Texas, number 35, Fabian White. Starting at the power forward, a 6'7" senior from Baltimore, Maryland, number 4, Justin Gorham. Standing at 6'1", a shooting guard, a sophomore from Red Oak, Texas, number 0, Marcus Sasser. Starting at the point, a 6'5" senior from New Orleans, Louisiana, number 3, Davion Mitchell. And starting at the small forward, 6'6" junior from the Woodlands, Texas, number 24, Quentin Grimes. And the 32-win, 4-loss Houston Cougars are coached by Kelvin Sampson. And now, let's meet the 33-win, 2-loss Baylor Bears. Starting at center, a 6'10" junior from the Congo, number 0, Flo Thamba. Starting at power forward, a 6'5" senior from Lake Charles, Louisiana, number 11, Mark Vital. Standing at 6'4", starting at the 3, a senior from Cincinnati, Ohio, number 31, Maceo Teague. Manning the point, a 6'3" junior from Reserve, Louisiana, number 12, Jared Butler. And at the 2 guard, 6'2", a junior from Hinesville, Georgia, number 45, Davion Mitchell. And the Baylor Bears are coached by Scott Drew. Alright, following another spine-chilling introduction. Those are always so sick. We got one more game here in the episode. The second half of the Final Four coming at you right now. Houston earns the first possession as they also try to play spoiler, much like the fashion that Alabama did, and kicking us off is Fabian White with a layup on top of Flo Thamba. So Houston with the first lead of the night, just like the tie. Let's see if they can hang with Baylor a little bit better than they did in real life, but if they're going to do that, they're going to have to watch the perimeter shooting of Davion Mitchell and his Baylor teammates. 3-2 Baylor. Mitchell now setting up this offensive possession as Jared Butler barely misses a 3 there. Out in transition, here comes Marcus Sasser for 3. The best three-point shooter on the Houston Cougars, as Marcus Sasser is a 6'1" sophomore averaging 14 and 2.5 assists here in his second collegiate season. Houston up 7-5, looking to push their cushion as Sasser goes to work there on Jared Butler. No easy feat at all. We all know how great on defense the Baylor Bears are, but Sasser starting out strong. 7 quick points for the sophomore. Now here comes Baylor. Davion Mitchell, that 3 is still their only field goal so far in the game until Butler will also work the baseline there, much like his counterpartner Sasser. There's Baylor's second field goal as a team as Butler averages 14 and 2 steals in the game, and there's actually a steal by Maceo Teague, who will bring it up the other way with a pull-up 3. Maceo Teague can stretch the floor, and Baylor has their first lead of the contest, 10-9 Bears. As they force a stop, Mitchell and his teammates bring it the other way. He'll kick this one over to Butler, who has some daylight. There it is, another 3. Baylor can turn it on with a flick of a switch. Sasser, way too soft defense there. 13-11 as Houston will also score, so they're hanging around much better than they did in real life, as we all know. The Houston Cougars were down 25 at the half in real life, but they've knotted up there. Justin Gorham, who's one of the better rebounders in the entire tournament, the senior from Maryland, averages 8.5 rebounds to go along with his 8 points a game. 13 apiece here. Stepping to his right, Marcus Sasser with three-pointer number 2. Houston back on top with the lead as we approach 2 minutes to go here in the first quarter. Still 16-13. Dejan Giroux will receive the inbound as he leads the Cougars in assists per game, but he'll go to work by himself. Giroux is a 6'5" senior from New Orleans, the Big Easy, and he plays with some swagger. 11 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists averages on the year. Giroux is a player who can do it all, but another player who can also light it up in any category is Mitchell, but he's not starting out the game too well. There is Fabian White sending that layup back, and he's starting out 1 for 4. Mitchell, he had an amazing Final Four run there along with Butler, but neither of them have looked too great here in the early goings. Mark Vital, meanwhile, will try to go to work there, and he will knock that one through. As he goes up against Bryson Gresham there, Mark Vital, he packs a punch, only standing at 6'5", but he's one of the better offensive rebounders in the country. Here we go, Marcus Sasser, last shot before the end of the first quarter, can't get it to drop. 18-17, Baylor. I mean, hey, it's a much different ball game than real life. You love to see it if you're a third-party viewer like us. As they have a chance to retake the lead here, though. Here comes Davion Mitchell, only had 5 points there in the first quarter, and immediately goes to work there on Sasser. So, Davion Mitchell, he started out very slow, but he did have a bucket that I didn't show here on the highlight film near the end of the first quarter, and he will begin his second with a 3-point play. 20-18 Bears. Mitchell again will try to go to work here. Oh, look at this. He's starting to heat up. Nice move there through the teeth of the defense. Baylor up by 4, and Mitchell has responded well. here comes Caleb Mills as some secondary pieces and bench players check in for both sides. 27-22 Baylor with their biggest lead of the ball game. Sasser off a screen. That one's good. Book it for Sasser. Three-pointer number trace for Marcus Sasser, who has been excellent tonight against one of the better defensive teams in the country. Now Caleb Mills will try his luck. The reserve player, the backup 2, who averages 4 per game on the year with a big shot there. Houston closed the gap between one. Now Adam Flagler and Matthew Mayer, 2 players who could start on pretty much any other college team in D1. They'll check in for the Bears, but meanwhile it'll be Davion Mitchell who will stroke it. Back-to-back threes here in the ball game. This contest has been a lot more fun to watch than the real-life game against Houston and Baylor. 2 Texas teams going at it here in the heart of Indiana. Now we see Adam Flagler will kick this around to Matthew Mayer, working it around the perimeter with 3 seconds left to go to shoot. Mitchell's have to force it up, and he still drains it. How about Davion Mitchell? 22 points, 17 of those have come in the second quarter. An unreal performance for the junior. And Mitchell will show on this possession, not only can he stroke it with the best of them, but he can facilitate as well. There's Jared Butler. And so far this ball game, it's nice to see Houston hanging around a lot more than they did in real life, but nonetheless, they still trail the Baylor Bears by 8. Both teams have shot the 3 ball well, but Baylor also has 8 more bench points. And Davion Mitchell, man, he looked unstoppable there in the last 9 to 10 minutes. 5 first quarter points followed up by 19 in the second quarter from Mitchell, who has also thrown 2 assists. Both have gone to Jared Butler, who has also chipped in 11. Marcus Sasser led the Cougars in points and assists with 15 and 3, but one player that we haven't seen anything from so far today is Quentin Grimes, Houston's point per game leader in the regular season. Grimes is Houston's point per game leader in real life, and he's also had an awesome virtual tournament so far. Game by game he's been better and better, but tonight he's still trying to figure out this Bears defense so far with only 1 field goal by his hand. 44-36, we tip things off here in the second half of action, and immediately now we see Jared Butler driving the lane. Maybe he could be in for a big second half performance. He's got 13 on the ball game thus far. The lead is now 12 for Baylor, the biggest of the contest. Baylor with some room to operate here. A pick from Flo Thamba. Behind the back move, he'll split 2 defenders and score again. That was a beautiful take to the cup. Now 17 for Jared Butler. The last 6 points for the Baylor Bears have all been by Jared Butler. Now 50-38. Houston cuts the lead down. Nice shot there from Quentin Grimes, but Jared Butler. How about the last 9 points for the Baylor Bears have come from Butler? Now Davion Mitchell wants to get in on the fun, and he does. A tough layup there over Sasser, and Mitchell continues his excellence here in the ball game. 26 for him on the night. Sasser now will bring it up the other way for the Houston Cougars, but not for long, as now Jared Butler and his Baylor Bear teammates look to attack. A kick out. Maceo Teague for 3. Baylor, the best team in the entire bracket at creating turnovers. You're seeing it here. Maceo Teague fumbled the pass a little bit, but still that 3-pointer was good out of his hand. You could tell he started walking back, pumping up the crowd before the shot tickled the twine. Let's jump to the 4th quarter now, when now Baylor takes a 19-point lead on the Cougars. Gresham will kick it around to Marcus Sasser, who's been by far Houston's best player tonight. Acrobatic finish there on Flo Thamba. And Houston, they went through that defensive slump there in the 3rd quarter. They're starting to play a little bit better here down the stretch, but still, Baylor's not letting them get much closer than 20 points here in the 4th quarter. Meanwhile, you see Quentin Grimes smoking an easy 12-foot jump shot. Very disappointing for Houston's best player here in the national semifinal game. Meanwhile, here comes Jared Butler. Nice scoop layup there. Runs into the stanchion, but he's all good there. And if it was Davion Mitchell's first half performance to remember, it's been Jared Butler's second half performance. He's got 29 here in the second half alone. Wow, what a performance for the Bears. How about one more 3-pointer for the road? LJ Cryer will knock it down from the deep corner. 90-68, Baylor riding this one to an easy win. Cryer looked very confident there despite only averaging 3 points per game. he looked very confident there down the stretch as the three-point shooting was contagious for the Bears. 90-72. Baylor will move on to the national championship ball game against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And as you see here, Davion Mitchell was the man in the first half, but Jared Butler, who had 29 second half points to give him 41 in the ball game, 7 made threes for Butler, and Davion Mitchell only missed 4 shots. What a performance from the Baylor backcourt, and also you can't sleep on their front court and what they did on defense today. Houston, full of athletes, a very cognitive team, but tonight their defense, one of the better defenses in the entire bracket, I should say. They got torched tonight. Marcus Sasser with 27, but the only other player who looked pretty good out there was Bryson Gresham, who had 10 and 6 off the bench. Meanwhile, Quentin Grimes, 4 for 8 shooting, looked a little bit invisible, and Dejan Jarreau had a tough night on defense. So much virtual basketball has been played here in this series, but the next time you see me here on the virtual March Madness tournament, we'll be sitting in on the national championship game, Alabama versus Baylor. Let's see if Alabama can't halt the Baylor Bears. And I mean, hey, with the way Alabama kind of took it to Gonzaga there for a while, I mean, hey, they may be our best shot to see another team hang with the Baylor Bears. So stay tuned for the national championship game here on College Sports Revive, coming soon of the virtual March Madness tournament.